Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Open Matters, the Setfords Podcast. For this episode, we're on the road, and hopefully you can hear some atmospheric traffic in the background because I'm standing on a roundabout in Bristol. Coming up in this episode, we'll find out why we are on the road. We're going to be speaking to Charlotte Robbins, consultant solicitor and expert in equity release, and we're also going to revisit a conversation with consultant regulatory solicitor Jeremy Asher to find out why he's been making headlines. So, stay with us, stay tuned, and enjoy this episode of Open Matters. Hello and welcome back to Open Matters, the Setfords Podcast. Joining me now, Charlotte Robbins, consultant solicitor and an expert in equity release, which sounds really exciting. We're going to get really stuck into that subject. So Charlotte, tell me about equity release. We met, didn't we, at the Equity Release Summit? So I know you're very passionate about it.
Did indeed,
yes. Very enjoyable day we had with Gemma Brennan, your co-conspirator in equity release work. And so, it was a good fun day, actually. I really enjoyed it.
It was a fantastic day, actually. It was really good to get everyone from the industry together and get everyone meeting up. So, no, it was great.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, because equity release is really having a little moment, isn't it? What's going on there?
It is. So I've worked in equity release for about 16 years, actually, and specialised for quite a long time. And equity release has become really popular over the last few years. People are using it for pension planning. People are using it for paying off mortgages, gifting monies to relatives, or using it for care at home.
Yeah, children trying to get a deposit for a flat.
Yes, we see that a lot. And we see gifts for, maybe monies for the university fees, things like that, or even divorces. That's quite common as well, or lease extensions in some cases.
Yeah, so very popular. You've got to be 55 at least, haven't you, before you can do that. So you're in that kind of zone past when you can start taking some of your pension. It's in that sort of age range, isn't it?
That's correct. So you do need to be over 55.
Yeah. And so it's been on a bit of a journey, hasn't it, equity release? It's been around for a very, very long time, really coming into its own sort of now. But explain a little bit about the background, because perhaps people listening, this is really for consultants and people who may be thinking about becoming consultants, but we will probably pick up some listeners who may just be interested in that topic and may think, equity release, what's that all about? What do I remember about that? Just maybe the reputational journey of equity release.
Of course. I started back in equity release back in 2006. And there wasn't a lot of regulation around equity release mortgages back when it all started.
Right.
And equity release did get a bit of a bad press to begin with. And there was quite a lot of very high rate mortgages around. Yeah. And we had a lot of reversion schemes back in the early days. Now there's probably only a couple of lenders that do reversion schemes, and we don't see those so much. Equity release is now highly regulated, and the Equity Release Council do a fantastic job of controlling that.
Yep. Yeah, of course, they were the organisers of the event that we went to, which was really massively well attended. Huge, big financial brands there. It's obviously a very, very sort of busy sort of sector. So talk to me a little bit about, there's a collection of you sort of consultant solicitors at Setfords that work in equity release. What does a firm like Setfords offer in terms of providing equity release to clients? It's kind of nationwide spread and things like that.
Course. So at Setfords we're really lucky. We've got lots of consultants here, and we've got a handful of consultants that specialise in equity release, and we're dotted all over the country, which is fantastic. And we have to see clients face to face for equity release. So we have to see them to sign the mortgage paperwork. So we do have them all up and down the country, which is great. And the great thing with Setfords is we are a full service law firm, which is fantastic. So usually with equity release, sometimes other clients may have other needs. So they may have needs for wills or powers of attorney, or if they're going for a divorce, they may need a family lawyer, or if they want to do a lease extension, for example, or a sale and purchase, which is quite common, we have consultants that can assist with that. So it really is great.
We've pretty much got all bases covered, really, haven't we? So no, that's a really good sort of USP for the company. So you said you've been involved in it since sort of 2006. Obviously, how long have you been working with us at Setfords?
I've been with Setfords about 2 years now.
Okay, and how do you find it? How did you find us?
I absolutely love Setfords. I love being a consultant here. It was the best decision I've honestly made in my career. I can say that.
Really?
Without a shadow of a doubt.
Well,
Best thing I did.
That is wonderful to hear. I always get nervous when I ask that question. But you answered it perfectly.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, tell me why. What is it about Setfords you love so much?
Right. So for me, I'd worked in traditional law firms in the southwest for many, many years, and then COVID came about, and I was working at home incredibly long hours, and we had stamp duty holidays and all sorts of fun like that. And I realised that actually I'd spent a very long time working and travelling away from home. I had missed maybe my teenagers growing up a little bit more than I should have done, and I wasn't there early in the mornings when I was travelling. And actually working at home was fantastic, and I could see them. I was there when they came up from college or school, and that was one of my main driving forces for becoming a consultant and being self-employed.
I mean, we've all encountered that, you know, where work starts to really kind of take over your life and gets in the way of all those other things. And actually in the legal profession, you know, there's absolutely a lot of discussion about that, because it's a very hard, stressful, long hours in environment. But it's glad you've sort of found that kind of role here with us, and we're able to kind of do that. So outside of you're not a lawyer 24/7, what do you get up to out of work? What's going on in Charlotte Robins' world when you're not a lawyer?
When I'm not a lawyer, I've got a passion for travel, so I travel quite a lot, love going to different countries. I'm a real foodie, so I can usually be found at a nice restaurant somewhere with a glass of wine in my hand. That's quite common.
Sounds perfect. I think you mentioned you've just been to Italy, haven't you? Was that for a wedding?
Yes, my lovely assistant Jess has just got married. So she got married in Sorrento last weekend.
Ooh, lots of good restaurants there.
There was, yes.
Oh, that's good. So you're in Bristol, right? Well, we're in Bristol.
Yes.
Yes. Do you live in Bristol?
No, I live in Exeter.
Exeter.
Just on the outskirts of Exeter.
Okay, so for the benefit of people listening, we are in Bristol as part of a Setfords tour. We're moving around the country, city by city, and trying to meet our consultants where they are, rather than what we normally do, which is invite them to come to us. I mean, we do actually sort of get out and do one-to-one meetings, but not as kind of large groups as what we're doing today. So you've obviously had a bit of a drive from Exeter. It's not that close, but well done for sort of coming along. What made you want to kind of come to this? What was the sort of the attraction for you, this sort of event we've got on this evening?
I think my driving force was just to meet up with everyone. It was a sort of networking opportunity for me. I think as a consultant, you tend to work from home or remotely in an office, and it's nice to meet other consultants and build that network. I think for me, I transfer work to other consultants quite regularly, so it's good to build those relationships.
Yeah. We've also got our co-CEOs, Chris Setford and Guy Setford. Have you met them personally before?
I have.
Yeah.
At some of Setford's wonderful Christmas events.
Of course, yeah, you must have been to a couple of those. I've got my first one coming up this year, which I'm really looking forward to, because the invitation made it look quite interesting.
It looks fabulous, doesn't it?
I don't know what you thought. Yeah, taking over a whole hotel. Yes. What could possibly go wrong? So yeah, Chris and Guy will be along tonight, so I'm sure you'll have a chance to have a chat with them. And I think the purpose of really what we're doing is just answering a request from our consultants as part of a survey, which is, come and see us. And so yeah, we've sort of put this together and travelling around the country. I think we're off to Nottingham and Manchester, and then back down to London, and then maybe we'll sort of have a look about sort of doing this again next year. So yeah, just to sort of finish up, we play a game on this podcast. I didn't warn you about this as well, did I? Didn't tell you about filming, didn't tell you about the game. So we play a game called What's in Your Backpack.
Oh, wow. Okay,
so the idea is this. A backpack symbolises remote working. You can chuck everything in it, throw it on your back and work from anywhere. That's the kind of symbolic element of it. Okay. Where we've gone with it is to ask you what you would have in your backpack. What are the essential items? But you have to assume there's the obvious things like a laptop, a charger, probably a notebook, pen and your phone and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so you're allowed 3 things. 2 of them can fit in a backpack. But because this backpack is kind of not really there, it sort of defies the laws of physics, you could have something really huge in there if you want to. So, Charlotte Robins, what's in your backpack go?
My makeup, my dog, and some water, probably.
Whoa, that was super quick.
It was.
Makeup, okay, I understand that. Your dog.
I'm a woman.
I spotted it. Your dog is called...
My dog is called Holly, and she spends most of the day sat by my feet when I'm working at home. So Holly would be with me.
And it's a comfy backpack.
Yes, it would be quite a large backpack. She's quite a big girl.
Yeah, she can have a little sleep in there. What breed? Sorry, I missed.
She's a collie cross Rottweiler, so she's my rescue girl.
Oh, that's so lovely. So hold on, we had makeup, Holly, your rescue
dog,
collie Rottweiler. That's an amazing mix. And water.
And always water. Yes.
Always water.
Yes.
Do you keep hydrated a lot?
Absolutely. If I can have an extra item, there'd be a coffee in there as well, probably somewhere.
Okay. Well, you might need hydrating in the morning. Setford events are, of course, very popular.
Yes, this is true.
For lots of reasons. Well, look, Charlotte, it's been really delightful to talk to you.
And to you.
Thank you for joining us on Open Matters, the Setfords podcast. And I'm sure we'll have you back on again and maybe get you back with Gemma. We can talk a little bit more about equity release. So thank you very much.
Great, you're welcome. Thank you very much.
So, welcome back to Open Matters, the Setfords podcast. I am joined now by a guest we've had on Open Matters before, and we're only about 5 episodes into a series, so it's great to actually be inviting people back already. So, Jeremy Asher, Senior Consultant Regulatory Solicitor, have I got that right?
Yeah.
Welcome back to Open Matters. How are you?
Thank you. I'm tired.
Now, I kind of think I know why you're tired. And that's kind of why I wanted to get you back and have a quick chat with you. So we spoke to you right at the beginning of starting to record this series. It's been sort of quite an elongated process for various reasons. When you were here before, we didn't have the nice microphones. We certainly weren't in a hotel bedroom. Which is absolutely something the BBC wouldn't do. We go our own way here on Open Matters, but we're in Bristol. We're here tonight for an event which you're a guest of, so thank you very much for coming to that, and thank you very much for taking a little bit of time out of your day beforehand to talk to us. So you've been in the news a lot lately, basically, everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. I think that started in July.
Yeah.
Nigel Farage... We've mentioned the name.
Yeah.
Coots closed his bank account.
Yeah.
And that all kind of blew up as a story.
Yeah.
And you've really become, I would say, pretty much the commentator from a legal perspective on some of the issues that have kind of cropped up around that banking closure. It's become known as debanking or unbanking. I think I've seen you use that term, which feels better. Tell us a little bit about, the last few months, what it's been like for you.
It's been extraordinary. Mr. Farage's little issue, as you know, ended up with us sitting down and thinking, well, actually, there's a bigger news story here, and that's the innocent people who are caught up in all this, who are caught up in fraud markers, where banks, for whatever reason, get it wrong, and they blacklist those people, and they cause them to potentially lose their homes, their businesses, their careers. And they are people that I've been helping for several years now. And it was an ideal opportunity for us to promote the work that I was doing, but also, more importantly, to get the message out that there was a bigger picture here.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about a few select politicians who are feeling a little bit aggrieved. We're talking about serious issues involving a lot of people who are being extremely hard done by. And as a result of that, we were able to, get some incredible storylines going. All the nationals have covered it in one way or another. Yep. I was even on a chat show on a radio show in Australia. I've done a podcast with the Financial Times. I had another interview this morning with the Financial Times. I've never been so busy in my life.
So you're busy because you are an international expert now. Let's
say that. Yes.
Let's put that out there. Also because people are now turning to you for help, and I think this is the sort of the crux of the matter, because clearly there are people who are wrongly marked with these fraud markers, and that's very much what you've been campaigning for. And I think it's fair to say you are on a campaign. You've got a petition running, which I checked the other day. You're on about 520 signatures. Doesn't sound like a lot, but actually it is a lot. And actually it's raised awareness of what you're trying to do there. Yeah. And that specifically is what explain to us what you're asking for from that.
What we're looking for is some transparency from the banks. The fraud markers are important. Okay, the UK is, if you like, the international hotbed of fraud, and the banks are at the front line spotting fraud and money laundering. And I'm not saying for 1 minute that the fraud marker system should cease at all. The difficulty is that the banks are using very blanket procedures and tools when they investigate.
Yeah.
And when they don't investigate correctly, they can pick up innocent people in these dragnets they're using.
Yeah.
And those innocent people can literally lose the lot.
Yeah. Because what happens, I think we spoke about this before, but actually I knew very little about it then. I feel like I know a lot more about it now, and it's a really interesting area. So people are literally sort of unknown to them often until they go and perhaps change their mortgage provider or try and get a better rate, which is obviously something that's been happening at the moment. Yeah. What's going on in the background there? Because there's three companies that are putting these markers out.
So exactly, there's National Hunter, Synetics Solutions, and the big one's Cyfas. So they are databases that the banks and other financial organisations, and there's thousands of them out there, including even our local authorities are members of these organisations, or certainly Cyfas. They report into these databases when they suspect fraudulent activity from a customer. And those databases, if you like, hold that data. They are searched when organisations conduct credit searches. And these databases are hidden from view. So the vast majority of the time, people don't have any idea at all that they've got one of these things hidden away in the background.
Yeah.
And so, they go in, and apply for a mortgage, and suddenly they get declined. And then they're trying to think, what the heck's gone wrong there? And then they do a data subject access request. And suddenly they realise, oh goodness me, I was marked 4 years ago. What does all this mean? It's all in code, and who's this bank, and what's gone wrong?
Yeah,
And
you help them through that sort of blurred
You've got
detail.
It. Exactly. Yeah. We try and demystify it, work out what's gone wrong, and then see what we can do to fix it.
Yeah.
And I can't fix them all.
No.
But those that we can fix, we generally manage to fix.
Yeah, and I guess for those people, they must be over the moon, because you've really, you've opened a door that was actually shut hard and stopping them from doing, all sorts of things. Sometimes working. I mean,
I've literally saved people's careers.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the interesting thing I found, and I didn't realise this, but the companies that manage these markers, they're not regulated by anybody, are they?
No, they're not. No.
And that's part of where the petition is.
This petition, going back to it, we need some transparency. We need to understand. There's only one that is transparent to an extent, and that's Cyfas.
Yeah.
The other two, we don't know what mechanisms they use or standards they use to allow those markers to be loaded.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no appeal mechanism. You can't go back to them and say, I think this was raised incorrectly. Can you review it? There's nothing.
It's almost behind an invisible door.
Got it.
Yeah, you can't see it.
No.
So how do people find you, and what would you say are the sort of things, the do's and don'ts? Because I think it's quite complex, isn't it? People might start to try and unravel this, but actually starting to unravel it themselves might mean they're taking steps you can't.
Yeah, and
back.
actually you can, and I've had it very recently with one of my clients, actually make things much worse for yourself if you don't understand, if you go in and think, well, I'm just going to try and sort this out myself. Suddenly you can cut yourself off from a line of appeal quite easily, because the lines of appeal themselves are complicated and depend on the circumstances of a particular person or their particular account or whatever credit facility it was. They're all tied in with FCA rules, so they're complicated. You've got to be able to understand, first of all, where am I?
Yeah.
What is this? And secondly, I've had so many people recently come to me who are out of time to appeal. They've tried to appeal, they've failed, not through any fault of their own, but because they're going in blind. They don't understand what they're appealing against. They've just simply said, can you please review this?
Yeah.
Without putting any evidence forward about what went wrong, which they may well have had. Yeah. Or they simply say in a letter, I've got the evidence to prove this, but they don't actually prove it. And suddenly they've got a problem.
There's no published process.
There's
so
no
nobody
published
would
process.
know. And also I think it's worth pointing out that it might sound like, people who go too far in the process, there's a kind of actually you need the lawyer to like yourself to kind of come in early. That's not the case with you, I've found. I mean, you actually you almost prefer for people not to be completely swamped in. It makes you happy if you can have a phone call and they're resolved. It's not all about winning work for you. It's about a campaign to raise.
Exactly.
And I think that really does speak volumes about you as the kind of solicitor that you are. You really do care, basically.
Yeah. Thank you. I do.
Yeah.
It's I can only imagine it's a horrible thing for people to go through, and sometimes these things can be resolved quite quickly and quite simply. Other times they are mighty complicated. And people can completely mess up without realising it.
Yeah. So in summary, the banks have a job to do, and it's probably a hard job, but actually they're probably using a blunt tool to do it. And the FCA absolutely need to step in and have some involvement in that and clear that process up, bring some transparency into the process. The agencies that manage fraud markers absolutely need to be brought into a spotlight where they can be scrutinised and regulated. And how do you feel in terms of the next steps and what's happening? Do you think that's going to actually become a reality?
Who knows? Let's be frank. Because the FCA doesn't regulate these fraud databases. Nobody does. So who is going to be able to push them to become transparent? And therefore, I suppose the only way of getting change is to be open about it and get a public discussion about it. And at least have people out there thinking, right, I've heard of CIFAS, I need to be careful here, I need to at least take some, a phone call to find out if what I need to do before I do anything. And then go from there.
That's fair. And I think also, raising the profile of it, obviously we've been working together on that, which has been, a joy, I have to say.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it has.
It's had its moments when you're literally given 30 minutes to provide a comment to a national newspaper.
You are very good. You are very good. You're very responsive.
It's been a ride.
It has, and it's not stopped yet. I mean, we've got that petition is still live. We'll put some details around this podcast to let people know where that is. And obviously we will keep working together. Just sort of pressing the pause button on that. I mean, obviously you've become incredibly busy through this.
I was busy anyway, but I'm even busier. I
think we put a post up on Instagram, didn't we, of you with a hose pipe on your dog. Got to mention your dog.
Yes.
I mean, those were beautiful photos.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So tell us about your dog.
My dog
Yeah.
is a very lovely 10-month-old, 11-month-old now, as of I think yesterday, retriever.
Right.
Who was so she's part of a family, and came to us via my daughter's partner's boyfriend. Her parents bred her, so she's very much a family dog.
Yeah,
and so her sister and her mum are all part of the family as well. So it's all rather lovely.
I only ask because there seems to be a bit of a dog theme occurring on this particular episode. Maybe it's a Bristol thing. I don't know.
Has somebody else been talking dogs?
Yes, yes. I think you bumped into Charlotte Robbins earlier.
Yes.
She was telling us about her dog, which is a collie. A collie Rottweiler cross.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Called Holly.
Okay.
So anyway, keeping up the dog theme. So just a quick one to sort of end with. You're in Bristol. You're at an event tonight. Chris and Guy are there. There are people from Setfords, including myself, explaining what we're doing, sort of news and updates. Is that something that's important to you? That kind of community and getting together? Is it helpful?
I think it does help. When you're a consultant and like me, you're a bit of a lone wolf. You know, you can
dogs
quite
again.
literally, work from home and have very little outside interaction other than phone calls and Zoom meetings and goodness knows what else. It's actually nice to be able to meet up with the team, and feel like you are part of that broader community. And exchange war stories and just get to know people. I mean, I know I'm self-contained. I'm a rarity, but it is still nice to have that camaraderie.
It's important, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's important. I think the last time we spoke to you, you were actually in our headquarters. I think a day that you really enjoyed. I read your LinkedIn post afterwards, which I loved. You pointed out all the things that are really interesting about our sort of company culture. Just to get it in, actually, before we finish, we've literally just been listed in the Newsweek top 100 UK companies as the most loved workplace. We're number 43 out of 100.
Blimey.
So we're very pleased with that.
I shouldn't have said blimey, but I have. But there we go.
That's okay. We'll let that pass. We'll put a warning out on this particular episode. Listen, I need to let you get off to your event, but Jeremy Asher, it's been really brilliant to have you back. Thanks for coming back in and giving us an update. Keep on doing what you're doing. That work is great. There are innocent people out there who really need your help, and of course, myself and my team are, at your disposal to keep up that profile. So thank you very much for coming back to Open Matters.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Open Matters, the Setfords Podcast. I never get tired of saying that, actually.
I love hearing it.
Yeah, I love hearing it as well. My own voice, come on. Oh, even better if I could get on telly.
What a name as well.
We are joined now on Open Matters by Marissa Ayers, Director of Wellbeing at Setfords, who is going to unravel for us why we're in Bristol and why earlier on I was standing on a roundabout telling everyone we're in Bristol. So why are we here?
Nobody can explain that madness.
That's just me.
That's just you,
That's
Eric.
just what I do.
But we're in Bristol as part of our road shows.
Yep.
We sent out a consultant survey to see what we could do, what more we could do for them, if you like.
Yes.
And one of the things they were very clear about was come and see us. Come and see us more. Don't always ask us to come down, to see you. We've obviously got a great base in Guildford. We throw some amazing parties, but they tend to be London-based. So this is a way for us to come and see little collectives that we've got in different parts of the country and show them that we really care.
But to be fair to you, actually, you do get out on the road, don't you? And you go and see people on a one-to-one quite a lot, actually.
I do.
This is sort of larger scale, a bit more like a touring theatre company.
Yeah, I'm bringing the gang along this
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah, we've got like a show. We weren't selling tickets, fortunately.
Not this time.
Yeah. So, consultant survey, Director of Wellbeing, obviously you are in charge of looking after consultants once they've gone through their sort of induction program, come on board, they become owned, in inverted commas, by you and your team. Just talk to us a little bit about the purpose of wellbeing in a law firm like Setfords.
Okay, so I guess it's a bit of a daunting decision to decide that you're going to move over into consultancy. Some people have done it previously, but if you haven't, it's a bit of a jump to go from being supported, having colleagues, an arm's stretch away at a desk in an office, and having work provided for you, having a regular income. So once people have decided to make that jump, and very, very, very few ever look back and decide it was the wrong decision to make, but in order to make that journey and that process easier for them, we pick up the relationship with them the second they've signed. We guide them through the onboarding process, and that's holding their hand through the various, for want of a better term, hoops they have to jump through. But, they have to provide information, they have to go through training, they have to, be checked out at every point. Once all those necessary formalities have taken place, then we hold their hand through the rest of their journey with us. And so, we own that relationship. We make sure that we're engaging with them regularly. Some people are, for the first time, working alone in a remote office, missing their colleagues around them. So there's plenty of things that we set up to make sure that they're meeting other people that have joined at the same time as them. They can share their experiences. There's only so much we can share from being on the inside. And create as much engagement and support for them as we possibly can through loads and loads and loads of different avenues.
I think I've seen there's a book club for consultants. There are webinars on every subject you care to mention. Financial health, the menopause, to name but two. I can't remember any others, but there's a lot. You
name it, we're doing it. If something is of topic, then we're definitely trying to address that at the right time. Otherwise, we're looking at, perhaps requests people have made. We've got Raj that works in the team. Her job is to stay in touch with people daily, day in, day out. She's calling people, and if she's getting regular feedback about gaps, suggestions, whatever it is, we'll take that on board and try and provide a solution to it. Outside of that, we're looking at lawyers in general. They suffer with burnout more than any other profession. So we're looking at mind balance workshops to teach them how to create that work-life balance. That is what consultancy is about, but some people can lose track of that because they haven't got a boss breathing down their neck. Which equally means they don't have somebody standing there and telling them, no, this is enough, manage your workload better. So we try and encourage them on that front. We're launching something else this quarter on the other side of things, which will talk to them about nurturing leads, growing their business. Basically, what we try and do is make them the best version of themselves. And the most successful versions of themselves.
I mean, what a great thing, really. How interesting it is that the legal profession now has a company like Setfords doing this. And it does kind of make you wonder in a post sort of pandemic world, because this business has existed long before that. But it does make you wonder, how would the industry sort of, smarten up to, the modern way of working? Things have changed, and obviously we've benefited from that. We've had more consultants join us, and we now have, sort of 400 plus?
450.
450. Yeah, that's a lot of looking after. You have a team, you mentioned Raj, you've got Harriet, who works with you.
Harriet, I could not live without Harriet. She's amazing. So she is the first point of contact that people will have with the Wellbeing Team, and she takes them through the onboarding process. She's, I've been called the fixer by many consultants in the business because we are like a conduit to all the other departments. And back when it was just me, I was the number one to come to. Now there's too many for it to just be me, and Harriet has definitely stepped up. And so she's the fixer number 2, if you like, although I'm not sure that's a great name for.
I mean, I think we all understand what it means. That's the key thing. You've also got Hayley, who organised this event and the others that will follow.
Her debut was the summer party.
What a great debut that was.
Amazing. She joined the team in March, as did Raj, actually, so we doubled in size this year. The idea in last year, sort of looking forward, was to engage more, now that we're out the other side of the pandemic, as you mentioned earlier, back to face-to-face getting together as much as we possibly can. We do a lot of celebrating and big parties, but again, the road shows are, the idea behind that is get together in smaller groups.
I mean, the company is growing, lots of things are happening all the time, and so keeping people connected and creating that sense of community is really important. So just sort of, let's go back in time a little bit. When did you join Setfords? How long have you been part of the family furniture?
I prefer family.
Family.
It's probably more like furniture though. It'll be 10 years for me in January
Really?
24. So yeah.
Wow, 10-year club for you.
10-year club for me.
Will they be organising a lunch? I think so.
I mean, we've got the first dinner this year in November, but we'll have to do it again because next year will be my 10 year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be there,
Yeah.
definitely, well, if I get an invite. So talk to me about that when you first met Chris and Guy 10 years ago. Did they have a sort of a blueprint for how they wanted this firm to evolve? And I mean, were you Wellbeing from the start?
No. And in fact, I've known Chris and Guy a lot longer than that. We've probably known each other 25. Wow. I'm not that old. 25 years now.
So
Must
since
be.
you were 5, 6.
Yeah. Born in the same hospital.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's fine.
I first met Guy, like I say, 25-ish years ago, when he was possibly even just finishing his training. He was definitely not Mr. Guy Setford of Setfords at that point, but
Right.
he always had the vision, as did Chris. So Chris is 3 years younger than him. They're cousins.
Yeah.
I also knew
Yeah.
Chris for
Yeah.
that length of time, and they've always had the vision to do this. You can't start straight away doing it. So, Guy started off on his own as a one-man band, supported by the firm that he used to work for. Then he employed a conveyancer and I think a support, come admin, come receptionist, come PA person.
Yeah.
Fast forward a few years, they've grown a little bit, moved into different premises rather than the rackety sort of one room that they were all working out of.
Yep.
And then, I guess sort of 10 years ago when I'd moved back from living abroad and they kind of took me out for lunch, wanted to show me their amazing offices at Jenner House.
Yep.
It was all so exciting. They'd expanded so massively. They had a marketing department, they had an accounts department,
Like a
not
real
just one
company.
person. Yeah, a real
With all
proper
the right
company.
things. Yeah.
Admin team, legal secretaries. It was all going on. It was so impressive. And at that point, they asked me to go and work for them, and I just thought, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do in a law firm. I'm not a lawyer. But I came from a sales and account management background, so that's what they were kind of moving towards. So that's when I started the business development team. Well, it was just me for a while,
Yeah.
and then grew it into a team.
Yeah.
We set up receptionists at that point,
Yeah.
which then naturally progressed to me having relationships with the consultants and me becoming their go-to.
Yeah.
And over the years, I've had several different titles, but the role has been consistent
Yeah.
in building relationships, looking after them, making sure they're taken care of.
There's been a TLC element that's probably just now got bigger. That now is the role. And I think I remember when I first met them, they were sort of talking about the journey of the company, much of what you've said, but they did sort of point out very quickly that they were the first law firm in the UK to appoint a director of wellbeing, which sort of says a lot about them, really, doesn't it, in terms of the sort of the care and attention for people, which is very evident around the company. I mean, we've won a lot of awards this year.
We sure have.
For company culture. We do an awful lot to encourage, diversity, inclusion, allyship, the allyship promise, which Susie has spoken about on this podcast previously. And so, it's to your credit, Marissa, that you're heading up a department and keeping consultants happy. I mean, we've just come from downstairs where several are gathered, excited and in anticipation for what's going to happen this evening, and so you have a great rapport, and I'm sure everyone listening to this will know you. I mean, you don't really need much of an introduction. I'm sure you know every consultant.
I try to.
But also, there are people who aren't consultants listening to this, hopefully, and maybe, all sorts of other people, who knows. So it's good to get a chance to explain what you do, and we're very lucky to have you.
Oh, Eric, we're very lucky to have you too.
Marissa Ayers, thank you for joining us on Open Matters.
Thank you for having me.